What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing my way too early 2024 NASCAR Cup Series schedule predictions. NASCAR said publicly in recent months that they're planning some pretty big shakeups. Today, I'm going to predict what the schedule will look like, in my opinion, for 2024. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start talking about February 4th, which will be the Busch Light Clash. I think in 2024, it will return to the LA Coliseum. Now, the LA Coliseum does have a 3-year contract with NASCAR, and there have been some rumors about the LA Coliseum potentially being a points-paying event. However, I think with the drivers' feedback and the drivers saying we should not make this a points-paying event, they had 27 cars on track, and the race was kind of a disaster in the second half of the event. I think NASCAR is going to come to their senses, and I think they will not run the LA Coliseum as a points-paying event. I think it will return as a Busch Light Clash, because I thought it was a very solid event in my opinion, and I think it should still stay the Busch Light Clash. I think it will return as a Busch Light Clash. After that, we'll have a 1-week break for the Super Bowl, and then on February 18th is going to be the Daytona 500. Of course, you're going to have the Speed Week, basically the Speed Week. You'll have qualifying on Wednesday, Thursday will be the duels, Friday the Truck Series race, and Saturday will be the ARCA and the Xfinity Series races, and the Daytona 500 will be the first race of the season. Daytona 500, of course, the biggest event on NASCAR's calendar, so we'll continue being it. It's been the biggest event in NASCAR for many, many years, so glad to see the Daytona 500. It will continue being the season opening race. I don't expect any changes there. After that, though, there is going to be some pretty big changes, as we will have the West Coast Swing on February 25th. Now, their Auto Club confirmed very recently in the last week or so that they are not going to be hosting a NASCAR Cup Series date in 2024 and possibly 2025 due to the renovations. So they need a replacement date. My prediction is that I think that Sonoma is actually going to get moved to the spring. I think Sonoma should be in the spring, and the reason I think that Sonoma will be in the spring is because I think the weather is so much better in the spring in California. You look at the pictures of Sonoma, especially in the spring, it looks absolutely incredible, and it makes a lot more sense to be there in the spring than in the summertime near the end of Fox's tenure. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Sonoma gets moved to earlier in the year, plus it makes a lot more sense to be there. I think Sonoma will be the second race of the season and the first race of the West Coast Swing. After that, on March 3rd, we'll be racing at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now, Las Vegas basically has a contract, I believe, through 2029 or 2030, where they have to host 2 points-paying NASCAR Cup Series races per season. Plus, the racing in Las Vegas, in my opinion, has been really, really good, so we're not going to see any changes in 2024, especially with the contracts. We'll continue seeing this continue. There'll be no changes here. I expect that March 3rd will continue being at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. After that, on March 10th, we are going to continue racing at Phoenix Raceway. Now, look, I really want Phoenix to only have one date, to be perfectly honest with you. However, I think at least until the contract ends, the TV deal, which ends at the end of 2024, I think Phoenix is going to continue hosting 2 dates. The track gets a lot of attendance and a lot of people show up. This race has already been sold out for this year, or last year it really sold out quickly. A lot of people are going to Phoenix, especially with the renovations, so you have to respect that. So I think in 2024, Phoenix will continue to host 2 dates, and they will have a spring date. I personally would cut one of the dates, but I think Phoenix will continue hosting a spring date as well. After the West Coast Swing, we're going to go back to the southeast portion of the country, and we'll be racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway on March 17th. Atlanta Super Speedway had a lot of attendance, and a lot of people showed up, and people really enjoyed the Super Speedway style racing. It will continue to have 2 dates in 2024. Now, the big thing about this event, it is a 400-mile race, which I think benefits a lot of people. I think it being a 400-mile race makes a ton of sense, so I don't expect any changes here going forward. I think Atlanta will continue hosting a first date, and will be a 400-mile event on March 17th. After that, on March 24th, we'll be back at Circuit of the Americas. Now, Circuit of America is basically a leased track by SMI, so it's not like a track that they can always run at every single year, but they've been able to have races there for the last 3 years, and I think that will continue in 2024. So I don't think anything changes here. Coda, of course, has had really good finish in 2022. I think the racing is even going to be better in 2023. NASCAR is working to improve the road course racing for 2023, and we might get a great race like we did last year. I don't expect any changes here. I think we'll see Coda continue to host their date on March 24th. After the March 24th race at Circuit Americas, we'll be racing at Bristol Dirt on March 31st at night. The reason it's a little bit earlier in the year is because of the fact that it is Easter Sunday night. And I think NASCAR in 2023 is going to continue having an Easter Sunday night race, basically on the Easter night weekend. Bristol had a lot of success. It did have a lot of rain, and this could put in a little bit of jeopardy of having some rain in the forecast because for whatever reason, the Bristol Spring Race tends to have a lot of rain in their forecast, including last year's event. I think there's a good chance it may not happen in 2024, but you can't predict the future a year ahead. But I think in 2024, I think Bristol Dirt will basically be able to have no issues with rain, and I think you'll see Bristol Dirt continue hosting the Easter Sunday of night event. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are going to tune in, and I think it will continue. After that, on April 7th, we'll be heading to Richmond Raceway. Now, my prediction is in 2024, Richmond is going to lose one of their dates. The reason I'm saying Richmond loses one of their dates is because their attendance for both of their events has not been really, really good. And we've seen this with many different tracks, that if you cut one of their dates from 2 days to 1 day, the racing product, you see a lot more fans at the racetrack. So, in my opinion, I think Richmond is going to get one of their dates cut. I think they keep their spring day. Makes a lot more sense to have the spring day. I think it will continue being a day event as well. NASCAR's had a really big obsession having day events because of ratings, which makes a lot of sense, especially with it being a contract year. Makes a lot of sense. Richmond will continue having the spring day. After that, on April 14th, we'll be racing at Martinsville Speedway. And just like this year, next year it will continue being a day race. Now, the reason they're moving Martinsville to today is to help the racing product, but also help the attendance and basically the temperatures as well. Plus, the race, I believe, is moving a little bit later into the year, if I'm not mistaken, on my schedule. I think Martinsville will provide a much better product. Temperature is going to be in the 50s and 60s, which will provide better racing in general. And I think fans will have a much better time on a Sunday afternoon event than a Saturday night event. Don't get me wrong, I love the Saturday night environment that the event brought, but I don't think anything changes here. I think Martinsville will continue hosting 2 dates in 2024, and I think they'll continue having the Sunday afternoon event. After that, on April 21st, we'll once again be racing at Talladega Super Speedway. Talladega Super Speedway is basically had 2 days, basically since the beginning of time, really since they've started racing in 1969, so you can't expect any changes. Talladega has also provided some really great racing, and their attendance for the spring race especially was really, really good in 2022, and I expect it to be as good, or maybe not better, in 2023. So Talladega, there's going to be no changes here. I don't expect anything to change, and Talladega, I think, will continue to have 2 dates, and they will have their spring day once again as well, which will get a little closer to summer. After Talladega on April 21st, on April 28th, we'll be racing at Dover International Speedway. Now, Dover, of course, will only have 1 day in 2024, but NASCAR cutting Dover from 2 days to 1 day has really benefited Dover. In 2022, they were able to have a lot of fans at the track because there was rumors about Dover maybe shutting their track down or getting sold off. Luckily for the long-term future, Dover, it looks like they're going to be sticking around long-term, especially with their attendance being as good as it was. I think Dover generally sticks around long-term in 2024 and will continue hosting its spring event. And the race, in my opinion, was one of the best Dover races we've seen in years, and I really, really enjoyed the event. It will continue hosting a spring race in 2024. After that, on May 5th, there is going to be a pretty big change happening for 2024. I think in 2024, I don't like to say this, but I think Kansas Speedway is going to drop from 2 dates to 1 date in 2024, and I think it's going to get replaced by Rockingham Speedway. First, why does Kansas lose one of their dates? Attendance is a big reason. Attendance for Kansas Speedway has not been very good for both of their events. So I think they're going to cut one of their dates. And like I mentioned with Richmond, it has really benefited a track like Michigan. So I really think that they will cut one of their dates and will only have one event. Second reason is Rockingham really wants a Cup Series date once again. There's been rumors about the future of Rockingham. They just repaved the track as of recently. So I think in 2024, Rockingham makes his official return to NASCAR. I was thinking maybe it could be the All-Star race in 2024, but we'll talk about that here very shortly. But I think Rockingham returns to the schedule in 2024. Let's make sure to show up if it does return in 2024, but I think in 2024, Rockingham is going to make its official return. After the Rockingham return, on May 12th, we'll be racing at Darlington. And once again, it is going to be the throwback race like it's been for the last 3 years. This event has been very, very successful. Tennis was pretty solid the last time they had their throwback race, so we will continue. Darlington has also provided always really great racing. Had a pretty solid finish near the end of the event last spring, and we've always seen really good racing at Darlington. Technical racing, but also really strong racing for the long term. So I don't think anything changes. Darlington will continue to host its throwback weekend. After that, on May 19th, I think we return once again to North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race. Now, the North Wilkesboro is returning for the first time to the NASCAR schedule in 2023 since 1996, and the reason for the All-Star event. I think it continues in 2024. I think a lot of fans are going to show up. We saw how big the attendance was for some of those Cars Tour events and some of those late model events that were at the track. So I think North Wilkesboro is going to come back on May the 19th, and I think it will return in 2024 at North Wilkesboro once again as the All-Star race. I think it sticks around. Would not shock or surprise me if North Wilkesboro does become a points-paying event in 2025, but I think in 2024, North Wilkesboro will be the All-Star race once again. And then after the North Wilkesboro race, on May 26th, we'll be having the traditional Coca-Cola 600. Now, 2024, of course, is going to be a big day. It's unclear what time the race will start and such, and Indy will have to adjust their stuff because Kyle Larson is competing in the Indy 500 in 2024. But this will traditionally be a 600-mile event, the longest night in NASCAR every single year. There's going to be no changes here outside of when the start times are going to happen, but it's going to be traditional double or even triple for Monaco GP, Indy 500, and the Coke 600. Nothing changes here in 2024. Coke 600 will continue on its traditional weekend. Then after the Coke 600, on June 2nd, we'll once again be racing at Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway International Raceway. Now, one thing to note about Gateway International Raceway is this track does have a multi-year contract. I think it goes through 2024 or 2025, so they will continue hosting races in 2024. I was at the inaugural event, and the crowd was absolutely incredible. I think they nearly sold the track out. I think they had like 80,000 people there. It was such a cool experience being there. It was my first ever NASCAR Cup Series race. I would like to get back there in 2023. It's just unclear if I will be able. It depends on how things go. But I would love to be back at this event in 2023. But I don't expect any changes here. I think Worldwide Technology will continue hosting its event in 2024. And then after that, on June 9th, a familiar track is going to return. It has not been on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule since 2019. I'm talking about Chicagoland Speedway. Now, how is Chicagoland fitting on the 2024 schedule? Well, Chicagoland Speedway, I think, is going to return for 1 year in 2024 as a replacement because Sonoma gets moved earlier in the year. Chicagoland is an ISC track, I believe, very similar to Auto Club Speedway, and I think it's going to return for 1 season. It wouldn't shock or surprise you if Chicagoland does eventually tear their track down. I don't want that to happen because I think it deserves to be on the schedule. But I think in 2024, you're going to see a return of Chicagoland Speedway on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. It deserves an opportunity to be on the schedule once again, and I think it returns to the schedule in 2024. Then we're going to have a 1 week break, and then on June 23rd, the NBC portion of the season is going to begin at Nashville Super Speedway. This will be the last year of Nashville's current contract. At the moment, they currently host races only through 2024, so this could be the final race at Nashville Super Speedway. Though I do think it's going to get extended at least for the foreseeable future because they're still working on things with the National Fairgrounds, and nothing hasn't finalized. It sounds like we're getting close to maybe finding something out about that here, but right now we're still kind of waiting on what's going on that front. Nashville Super Speedway did have a less crowd in 2022 compared to 2021, and it probably will have a little bit even lesser crowd in 2023 unless people decide to show up. But I don't expect any changes here. I think Nashville will continue to be on the schedule. After the Nashville Cup race on June 30th will once again be at the Chicago Street Course. Now, Chicago Street Course, I believe, has a 3 or 4 year deal that goes through 2025, so it'll be on the schedule at least for the next few years. Now, we haven't had the first one yet, so we don't know how successful it is going to be. A lot of people are wanting the Chicago Street Course to fail. I really hope it does succeed for NASCAR because I think it would be really, really good for sport if it does end up succeeding, and I think it'd be really, really great. So I don't expect any changes here heading into the 2024 season. I think Chicago Street Course will stay on the schedule in 2024 because it will stay on the schedule. Then after that, on July the 7th, we'll once again be back at Atlanta Speedway. And this will once again be a night race like it is in 2023. It will be a night race to help with the heat and help with the temperatures, which is something it should have done in 2022. It's going to be better for the fans at the racetrack. And honestly, with it being a 400-mile race as well, it's probably going to produce a really good show as well. Being a night race, it's going to be a really, really good show as we're getting closer to the playoffs at that time. I think it will continue to be on the schedule long term. Track provides great racing. Will continue being on the schedule. After that, on July the 14th, we'll be racing at New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire has been on the NASCAR schedule since 1993, so it will not be going off the schedule in 2024. I believe it is an independent-owned track, or it's owned by SMI, if I'm not mistaken. New Hampshire's had a really good fan base. I think the racing in New Hampshire has been criminally underrated over the last few years, and I think New Hampshire, once again, like other tracks, be another great racetrack to go to. So it will stay on the schedule in 2024. I don't expect any changes. After racing in New Hampshire on July 21st, we'll be headed to Pocono Speedway. Now, Pocono Speedway has only had they were a 2-day track until 2022. In 2023, they will be a 1-day track, and in 2024, I don't expect any changes once again. Pocono Speedway is an independent-owned track. The track's had kind of a questionable future in the past, but I think Pocono will continue hosting racing in 2024 and even 2025 down the long-term future as well. So I'm not expecting any changes in 2024. I think Pocono is going to continue hosting NASCAR Cup Series races and other forms of NASCAR racing in 2024, and will stay on the schedule. After racing at Pocono, on July 28th, there is going to be another big change. Like I mentioned earlier in this episode, I am predicting that Richmond is going to lose one of their dates. The track that I think is going to replace the track is going to be Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Now, NASCAR is obviously talking about maybe going international, and they want to kind of expand their presence. I think a track that would fit the category for being a really good racetrack that always provides great racing in the Xfinity Series is Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I really love this track. The fact that NASCAR left this track was just really, really frustrating to see, because this track absolutely provided really awesome and great racing. So I think in 2024, I predicted this track will return to the NASCAR schedule for the first time since 2012. It deserves an opportunity, and I think after 11-year hiatus from racing at the track, I think it returns in 2024. After racing at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on August the 4th, we're going to race at Michigan International Raceway. With it being kind of close to the Montreal area, makes sense to be, once again, at Michigan. Plus, the crowd and only being a 1-day track makes a lot of sense. Being the only day in 2024 makes a lot of sense for it to be a 1-day track. Plus, I thought Michigan had their best race they've had really since 2011. The racing was really good in 2022, and I think it could genuinely continue heading into 2023 and maybe also in 2024 as well. I don't expect any changes here, and I think in 2024, you're going to continue seeing Michigan on the schedule. After the Michigan Cup race on August 11th, we'll be racing at Indianapolis. But instead of racing on the Indy Road Course, we're going to go back to the Brickyard Racetrack. There's been rumors about the future of the track. There's been talks, and Doug Bull said this as recently as late January. They were talking about potentially making this go back to the Brickyard track and going to the Indy Oval. Some fans have enjoyed the road course racing, but a lot of fans have been really begging for the Indy Oval to come back. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see an alteration of the Indy Oval and the Indy Road Course. We go 1 year to the Indy Oval, and then the next year to the Indy Road Course. So I think that's what's going to happen in 2024. I think the Brickyard 400 returns, and I think it will be on the schedule once again and be another crown jewel event. After racing at Indianapolis on August 18th, we'll be back racing at Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen's been a stable for many, many years and has provided really awesome racing. In fact, it's my favorite road course on the schedule because the track always provides really top tier and really great quality racing. So I think in 2024, nothing changes here. I think Watkins Glen is going to continue hosting racing in 2024, and I think it will continue providing that really awesome racing that we've seen for many, many years. I think it will stay on the schedule long term in 2024. And then the final race of the regular season on August 24th will take place on Saturday night at Daytona International Speedway. Daytona's hosted the regular season finale for the last couple of years now, and it's been actually pretty successful with the racing. Kind of had a controversial ending with the rain coming into play on Sunday the last time we raced here, but I think in general, Daytona being the cutoff race really brings that intensity. It brings a lot of that adrenaline as well to the drivers and makes them try to focus and make really bold moves, but also critical moves that could affect their championship hopes, especially if they're on the cutoff line near the end. So I think in 2024 continues and will continue being the cutoff event. So now we get into the playoff races. Let's begin with the round of 16. The first race of the playoffs, once again, on September 1st, will once again be the Southern 500. Southern 500 has been the opening race, I believe, since 2020 season. So for the last few years, it has been the opening race. And in my opinion, being the opening race makes a lot of sense. Now, unlike the May race, it will not be a throwback event, though I do think there is a really good chance and a really good possibility that this could be a throwback event in the future once again in maybe like 2024 or maybe 2025. It's one thing to watch. I think it will continue being a race in 2024 as the opening playoff race. And then after that, September 8th, we'll be racing at Kansas for the only time. Like I mentioned, the reason that Kansas will only have one date in 2024 is because of the fact that I think attendance has been a big factor and a big role in why we have not seen a lot of people show up to it. So I think that in 2024, it gets cut to one date. The only run one race in 2024, and I think it'll be the fall race. And then finally, the cutoff race will be on September 14th at Bristol, the Bristol Night Race. Now, this would be one of the only 2 Saturday night races on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule throughout the year, once again in 2024. Bristol Night Race has been always a race that's been really fun, really enjoyable, and I think the racing in general, besides maybe last year, the racing has been absolutely incredible. So I think it will continue hosting the round of 16 cutoff event. Now we get into the round of 12 races. The first race will be on September 22nd at Texas. Now, this could be the last race on the Texas configuration before they do decide to configure, so this could definitely change, but I think NASCAR will race at Texas in 2024, but I think it will be the last race on the current Texas configuration because, let's be honest, good riddance to this track. This track has not provided great racing since the old reconfiguration that they did in 2017, and they probably should not have reconfigured the track. Repaving made a lot of sense, but reconfiguring the track made no sense whatsoever. So Texas will continue hosting the opening race of the round of 12. After that, on September 29th, we'll be racing at Talladega Superspeedway for the second race of the round of 12 and halfway point of the playoffs. Talladega always provides a lot of adrenaline, and a lot of excitement. Always provides the great racing. It will probably be a very intense race unless there's self and safety issues. It will be a racetrack that will provide a lot of great and awesome racing. So no changes here in 2024. I expect Talladega to continue being the middle race. And then after that, on October 6th, we'll be racing at the Charlotte Roval. Now, the future of the Charlotte Roval is going to be in question in the short-term future because of the TV ratings. Every year, it seems like the TV ratings are dropping at a big number. And I think the Charlotte Roval this year only had a little bit over 2 million viewers, which is not really that good. It's been dropping every year since the inaugural event. I'm worried long-term that the Charlotte Roval could end up losing its date and could go maybe to Charlotte, like the main 1.5 mile track, which a lot of people have been begging for the 1.5 miler to come back on the schedule. But I think in 2024, it stays a road course. And now we get into the round of 8 races, and there's some changes for the round of 8. First, on October 13th, we stay at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now, Las Vegas in the long-term future could definitely become the season finale. The track definitely fits that category, and with basically F1 kind of coming to the end of their year as well, when they kind of nearly end the season in the Las Vegas area, it could be a season finale in the future. But I think right now in 2024, I don't think anything changes with this racetrack. I think it will 100% continue being another opener for the round of 8. But I think in the future, it could change. And then after that, on October 20th, there is going to be a swap. I think Phoenix is going to lose their season finale date in 2024. And I think the race gets moved to the second race of the round of 8. Couple reasons why. One, this track does not deserve a season finale. I understand the crowds have been great, but the racing has been bad. And I would care more about the racing than the crowd size. I get the crowd size makes a lot of sense, but I think in my honest opinion, Phoenix does not deserve a season finale. And like I mentioned, the racing itself has not been very, very good. But I think being in the middle of round of 8 makes also a lot of sense because especially of the travel and stuff, being in the West Coast area, you're kind of in that West Coast stretch, and it's kind of a mini West Coast swing. But that makes sense why I would move it to a little bit earlier in the year. I think it gets moved to the second race of the round of 8. And then finally, on October 27th, the cutoff race for the round of 8 will once again take place at Martinsville Speedway. Like it's been since 2020, it's basically been the cutoff race to get into the championship race at Phoenix. That is going to continue in 2024. Track's been fun to watch, one of my favorite racetracks on the schedule. I know 2022 wasn't the greatest racing in the world, but I will say one thing about Martinsville is a track that I still love, regardless of how good the racing is a track that I want to get out to. I want to try some of those Martinsville hot dogs because their hot dogs are great. And I think in 2024, nothing is going to change. I think it will continue being the cutoff race to get into the championship 4. And now we finally get to the final race of the season on November the 3rd, and I think it's going to take place at Homestead Miami Speedway. I think Homestead is going to get the season finale once again in 2024. Homestead, in my opinion, is a way better season finale track than Phoenix ever was. The racing at Homestead was so good and has always been a great racetrack. It's one of my favorite mile-and-a-half racetracks on the circuit, and it deserves a season finale once again. The fact that they moved it away from being a season finale because they gave it to Phoenix, which in 2020 it was understandable, but the fact that they got rid of this being a season finale was just really, really bad and really frustrating. I know the 2019 race was not really that good, but if you want my honest opinion, it should still be the season finale race, which I think it will be in 2024. So, those are my early 2024 NASCAR schedule predictions. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are below over that, and comment below your thoughts below on today's video. What other schedule changes did I get correct? Do you think that will end up happening? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to likely have Super Bowl picks on the channel on Friday. I know I kind of keep pushing that back. I just haven't had time. Plus, I'm working a lot more consistently on this channel as well. I am going to basically have a NASCAR news video. Saturday, I might have either a paint scheme video or basically have something else on the channel. And Sunday, of course, I will have something on the channel for you guys to watch. And then on my other channel, we'll be doing Super Bowl stuff, which I think you should be looking forward to. And then next week is Daytona week, and I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.